Hey, everybody, it's Thursday, and you know what that means? That's right. It is episode 70 of the Real Deal Pod with Allister and Geoff. I am Allister Carrington, your trusted realtor, alongside my boy, our trusted lender, our mortgage guru, Geoff Lee. It is an amazing Thursday afternoon. Plus 27 with a little bit of breeze. That is absolutely perfect. Geoff, my friend, how are you? How was your long weekend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's Thursday. The last days of summer are here. The kids are off to school. Parents have a sense of relief over them. And you know what? I think it's a good feeling all around. Had a great long weekend. Had friends over, and you know what? We just enjoyed the last days of summer. And made an event of it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I worked my long weekend. It was nice. It was nice. I also got to spend some time with the family. Um, Kids went out without me. They went to a petting zoo with their mother, and so now my son is gonna yell at me later on, saying I just told the world that he went to a petting zoo with his sister and his mother. But hey, listen, as I always tell him, those these are the memories that you live for.
Yeah.
But yeah, but speaking of kids back to school, my daughter just started her first day of high school. Not
Wow.
today, obviously, but yeah, this week was the first day of high school for her. And it was so funny because my wife was, she was like, "Oh, she's gonna be nervous." Da, 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 da. Hell no. She was so excited. She was like, "I already know everybody there." Da, 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 da. She's been loving it. She loves high school already, man.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I still find it. I still find how British Columbia does their deal weird. Like, so I remember going to school. We had K to six, right, and then junior high was seven, eight, and nine, and then high school was 10 to 12,
Yeah.
right? And now Winnipeg is gone. I don't know why they switched it, but now elementary school is K to five, junior high is six to eight, and then high school is 9 to 12. I don't get the switch because it's still essentially the same thing, but it's I still find it a little weird and listen, a little creepy. I'm just being honest. I think it's a little creepy having grade 8 kids with kids in grade 12, right? I find that age gap just a little much. I don't know if that's the dad in me. I don't know what that is. I find that creepy.
Yeah, I think when I went to school, I was from grade 1 through 7 was elementary, grade 8 to 10 was junior high, and then 11 and 12 was senior high. So,
Okay, so you almost had the same thing. So how this mess got all switched out, got all changed around, and you can't even tell me it's because of a lack of schools. Because I'm sitting there watching in my area, like they built Salish, so it's another what is Salish school? Well, Salish is a high school. It is high school, but I think they're making it like all. I think they're going to go from K to 12.
oh
Salish
wow.
is, yeah, I think Salish is going to end up going K to 12 because it's so big. They're just going to have different rooms. And actually, Ebby was just at Clayton Heights um, giving a speech. It was funny to see all the kids rushing by as the bell rang. And they even told him it might get a little bit loud as you're giving your speech. But he was out here talking about how they're getting rid of portables and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, like I just can't understand why they condensed and got rid of the middle school. My wife was telling me it's because parents were complaining that it was taking away innocence of children or something like that. And I think that the innocence of children are lost when you have grade 12 boys hitting on grade 8 girls. I'm just saying it's just not right. So any grade 12 boy out there that wants to hit on my daughter is not gonna it's not gonna work out well for you, my friends. Hit on girls your own age. Stick to the grade 11s and 12s. That's my little PSA rant right there.
Yeah, not gonna go there.
No, no. Awesome, buddy. Well, we got a jam-packed episode today. But as always, we're going to kick it off with podcast's hottest segment, and that is Did You
Did
Know?
you
That's right,
know?
baby. Did you know? So, Geoff, Did you know that the Canadian real estate is going through one of the fastest price corrections in history?
I
So,
do not know.
see that? So, since the peak back in early 2022, real home prices, and what real home prices mean is prices adjusted for inflation, have fallen by about 24%. And that puts us in the middle of the second largest price drop ever recorded in this country.
Wow.
And to give us some perspective, the big crash, the one that we always hear about, oh, I'm waiting for the market to crash, just like it did back in the 80s. So the big crash in the early 80s was around 32%. And the one in the early 90s was about 22%. So, yes, this is significant. But what makes this moment stand out is not just the size of the correction, but also the speed. We're only 3 years into this downturn, and already prices have dropped more sharply than most past cycles. In fact, only two downturns were shorter: the 2008 financial crisis and the 2017 market dip tied to foreign buyer activity, which, by the way, was just at the inception of my career into this lovely industry. And I remember talking to all the old veterans out there, and all of them looked at me and said, "You got into this business at the wrong time, kid." I just laughed. um, but both of these ended quickly, and this one is still unfolding. So here's the part that might surprise everybody. When you adjust for inflation, today's home prices are actually cheaper than they were in 2017. So that's almost a decade of gains that have been rolled back. But the catch is wages haven't kept pace with the inflation, and that's why affordability, sorry, still feels like a challenge. So, what does that mean going forward? Corrections, as tough as they can feel, also create opportunity. So for buyers who've been waiting on the sidelines, these shifts can open doors to homes and communities that just felt out of reach a little while ago. And for sellers, understanding where the market sits historically, right, helps you make thoughtful and informed decisions about timing and strategy. So the biggest thing that I want people to understand is real estate cycles are nothing new, right? They're part of the natural rhythm of the market. And while we can't call the bottom just yet, what we can say is this: every correction eventually sets the stage for recovery. So the key is, as always, is to stay informed, stay measured, and always make decisions with both the present and future in mind.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the correction was that significant since
Huge, right?
2017, a 24% drop.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that is significant. So,
Yeah.
but or
No,
and
since 2022, we've seen a 24% drop. Yeah.
which is the second biggest correction since 2017, or is it?
Right.
Right.
Right. Because we had no, 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 no. It's the second biggest since 1980. We're in
Oh,
the middle of the biggest correction was 1980 at 32%. We're at 24%. And then the one after that was in the 90s at 22%. So we're actually in the second biggest correction in the history of real estate in this country.
wow.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. So again, when people are talking about, hey, I like prices need to fall, we are already in the biggest correction, and we're going to get to the market. I have the market update that I want to speak to afterwards, but as slow, and I will be balanced, I will say it was slow in the Fraser Valley. Vancouver, Metro Vancouver, actually saw a little bit of an increase in sales. So, it's really interesting to see how this is all kind of starting to balance out.
But overall, again, countrywide,
Yep.
it is the second biggest correction since 1980,
Since
right?
1980, countrywide. Yeah, this is the second biggest correction in the history of this country.
I will say on that is that every corrections, and as you pointed out, there is always going to be a stage of recovery.
Right.
Just a point as far as when, right?
Yeah.
And even to add to that, we have so much inventory on the market, which I'm sure you're gonna, jump in on a little bit.
Yeah.
And people are still on the fence to buy. And I can almost assure you in 5 years, people are gonna say, dang it, I should have bought back in 2025, right? But for whatever reason, our psyche just prevents us from moving forward when the timing is right. So
Yeah.
so again, folks, if you are in the market, the timing is now.
Well, and that's just it. So, like, just to tie it back again, right? We are our pricing again, like meet our real pricing is actually cheaper than it was in 2017. So right now we're just struggling because wages didn't catch up. So this goes back to affordability. And if you can afford to buy, this is actually the right time to purchase because our properties are cheaper than they were in 2017. Those gains that were rolled back, right? We're in from now to 2022 at that 24% drop. They're going to roll up again because, like we said, every correction comes with recovery.
Yeah.
So just looking at that, it really is time that, we start kind of checking ourselves and start to say, hey, if I can do this, this actually is the most beneficial time. Because again, say again, those areas that people thought were unaffordable before are starting to become affordable again. And I'll touch on that when we go through the market update next.
Yeah. Well, let's do that.
Let's get into it then, man. Let's kick it. So let's start in the Fraser Valley, where the story continues to favor buyers. So sales slowed down quite a bit in August. We had only 931 homes sold, which is 22% fewer than July and 13% fewer than last year. And to put that in perspective, that's 36% below the 10-year average for August.
Wow.
Yeah, let that sink in. So inventory held steady at just over 10,400 active listings. But the thing is, new listings dropped almost 20% compared to July. So remember, like last month and the month before, I kept saying like new inventory keeps coming on the market, keeps coming on the market. Well, it stopped. It stopped. And so that kept the sales to active listings ratio at 9%, right? So remember, anything below 12% means a strong buyer's market. And here's where prices now are softening. Detached homes are now valued at, on average, 1.436 million, which is down 1% month to month and 6% down from last year.
Wow.
Townhomes are at 807,000, down 1% from July and 4.5% from last year. And condos sit at 514,000, again down 1% from July and nearly 6% from last year. So we're not seeing so much of a shavings in the price points, but from a month to month basis, but we're starting to see those values drop considerably, right? From a year to year basis. And homes now are also taking longer to sell. So detached homes are averaging 38 days on market, condos 41, and townhomes 32. And so to put that in perspective to last month pretty much everything was sitting on the market for 32 days. Right? So the takeaway here for buyers of course, right, is there's choices, everybody, right? We've got a plethora of choices and negotiating power. This is one of the best environments we've seen in years for making bold offers, especially on properties that have been sitting on the market for so long. And for sellers, the strategy now, of course, matters more than ever, right? If you price it too high, buyers are going to pass you over. If you price it correctly with a clear marketing plan, that's what's going to make the property stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also to keep in mind too, and we've talked about this before, is what the market that you sell in might not
Yep.
be the market you want to be in, but also the market that you buy in is going to be reflective the same, right? So if you are
Exactly.
selling and buying, again, you're not getting that price that you're emotionally attached to, but you're also buying at a market where it has corrected as well. So even if you made, back, let's say talk about COVID days when you made $300,000 on the home, you're also overpaying three to five hundred
Yeah,
thousand dollars on what you were buying. So again,
exactly.
apples to apples, it's really the same. It's just a matter of how you kind of put that picture together and what that actually looks like. But if you were to run the numbers, and actually we should, hey, back in when everybody was comfortable and spending money like it was Black Friday, rates were at ultra low. You put that same house back then to that same house today, I bet you the cost of borrowing is actually better today than it was back in when everybody was super comfortable.
I 100% agree with that. So now what I want to do though is I want to shift over to Greater Vancouver just because the picture looks a little bit of the same and a little bit different. So sales actually picked up in Greater Vancouver compared to last year. So just under 2,000 homes sold in August, which is a 3% increase from 2024. Yeah. So that said, though, sales are still about 19% below the 10-year average. So we're not back to normal levels yet, but that's a vast difference between the 36% that the Fraser Valley is down, right? And inventory, of course, in Greater Vancouver is running high as well at over 16,000 homes listed. So they've got another 5,600 homes on the market than we do over here in the Valley, which is 18% more than last year and 37% higher than the 10-year average. But new listings are right in line with the long-term average. So what that means is that buyers keep coming off the sidelines, right? Supply could start to tighten.
Hmm.
And that's where we talk about, right, where you start missing the boat and saying, oh my goodness, I don't have as much leverage anymore as what I once thought I did. What happened? And so to give some context about to that, the sales to active listing ratio is 12.4%, which is right on the edge of the balanced market. When we say balanced market is 12 to 22%,
Mhm.
right? Anything over 22% is a seller's market, anything under 12% is a buyer's market. But when we look at segments, detached homes are sitting at 9.3%, sorry, which still favors buyers, while townhomes are at 15.8% and condos are at 14%. So those are the categories there that are starting to see the most traction when it comes to buyer activity.
Yeah, and probably more because of affordability.
And that's what I was going to get into. So detached homes now in Greater Vancouver are $1.95 million, which is down 1.2% month to month and down 5% to last year. Townhomes are sitting at 1.079, I beg your pardon, down 1.8% from July and 3.5% annually. And condos are at 734,000, down 1.3% and down 4.4% annually. So seeing the same sort of reductions, right? Price drops as the Fraser Valley is.
It's a pretty much reverse of the appreciation of property as far as typically what it looks like. It's pretty much the reverse as far as the depreciation. But again, I will say with confidence that this depreciating market will turn into an appreciating market. When that time is, I wish I had that crystal ball. But
Right.
but again, um, and we've been saying this for now probably 2 years plus. It's
Yeah.
just around the corner.
Corner.
It's just around the corner. But even to to your did you know segment, this is from what I remember you saying, this is actually the longest time that we've been in a correction for, whereas the other two times we were kind of in it. I'm not going to say and then we were out of it, but But I think what you said with this correction, which is the second biggest corrections that our country has ever seen, it's
Yeah.
actually been the longest we've been stuck in it.
Yeah. With the quickest drop in prices,
Right.
right? We've seen the quickest drop. That's the other thing. So that's where,
It's almost so it's kind of mirrors like when we were going through that COVID craziness where it was the biggest spike ever,
yes.
right?
Hmm.
So I'm almost curious that if you take that COVID period and you take this period, because again, you're spiked up so high, and now we have also the biggest correction, you know, those two must be correlated in many, many ways.
I think so. And the other thing, and I know like we keep and it is a real factor, right? So I don't ever want to poo-poo it as they say, right? Tariffs are and I don't want it to get political as well. Tariffs are definitely playing a huge role in this, right? A huge, massive role in this. But
With the fear of people buying.
right, with the fear of people buying, tariffs is playing a huge role in this. But here's the thing: the courts just ruled that the majority of the president's tariffs are illegal. Now he's asking the Supreme Court because he feels he has them in his back pocket. He's asking them to make a ruling quickly. But from a lot of what I've been reading, and again, I take the things I read with a grain of salt, right? But the majority of the people that I read, and it's independent. I don't like reading from the left or the right. I like to try to read people that live in the middle. They feel as though the Supreme Court is going to have a hard time actually siding with Trump on this one
Hmm.
because they don't like presidents going off the cuff and making their own decisions. So they actually have a feeling that they might rule against them. The one part that might keep them from ruling, that might keep them ruling with Trump against, not ruling against him, is the fact of all the money that the government will have to pay back businesses.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's in the hundreds of billions. It's crazy the amount of money that that the government would be forced to pay back the businesses because of these illegal tariffs. So that's the one key thing that they say might have them rule in favor of Trump is just literally all the money that would have to be paid back. So if they don't rule for Trump and these tariffs become illegal and they have to be stripped away, then what does that do to the market? That could shift the market into overdrive. And again, when we start looking back at, missing your opportunities and looking back later on and saying, I should have purchased, right? That's the part where people might get stuck. And again, I will always say this, and I don't have a crystal ball. I just have my beliefs. I don't believe we're going to see COVID era pricing again. I don't believe we're going to see the mania that we had like we had before. But I do believe, again, in the next recovery, we will have things get roll back, maybe not 24%, right? But probably down to 19, probably roll back to 19. And that's significantly higher than where we're at now. And again, we'll make those areas that people wanted to be in unaffordable again. When had they stopped trying to play the game and play the timing game,
Yeah.
right? They would have been able to get in those areas. So
Yeah. And you know what? We will never know until we
no,
get there.
until we know, until it happens. And that's what happened with COVID. I will always remember that. People were, it was one of those things, oh, the market's slow, and then COVID happened and people started panicking going, "Oh my God, it's already slow and how are all these new rules going to affect how we show homes? How is business even going to work? And we're not even being allowed to apply for subsidy because we're being called an essential service, so we can't get the COVID subsidy and da 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 da." And then all of a sudden, the markets are crazy and homes are flying off the shelves, like Geoff said, like it's Black Friday, right? So again, you don't know until you're in it, and then once you're in it, it's too late.
Yeah. And you're not necessarily an expert until your hindsight kicks in and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were right, or well, yeah, we were wrong. But this is the joy of having opinions
Right.
and also the unjoy of not having that crystal ball, right? Because everybody can say this is what you should have done 5 years, when you're there, this is what you should have done, or this is what I should have done. But at the end of the day, um, again, like any good decision, you have to take all the pieces of that puzzle, weigh the pros, weigh the cons, and make an educated decision about, how to best move forward. And if you
Yeah.
take a look at what I'm hearing from you today, is that we are in the second biggest correction our country has ever seen since
Yeah.
1980. Prices have dropped, I believe you said
4%.
24%.
Yep.
We have an abundance of inventory. Year after year, we continue to drop. Appreciation has been dropping probably year after year for the last 3 years.
Yep.
Rates are, again, we have a Bank of Canada rate coming up here, I think September 17th. Most economists believe that there's a 40% chance that our prime rate is going to drop. There is really nothing to stop people from buying outside of their own fear.
Yeah.
And and again, what sells in the media is fear
Fear.
and sex, right?
Yeah.
So again, this is just a great time for media to get their teeth into what they do. This is a great time for them to spread that fear. But again, I think if were to take all the pieces to the puzzle as far as should I buy or should I not buy, I believe, and I've been saying this for well over a year, I believe the best time to buy is when you can.
Yep.
But I think now is a great time. But I've been saying that all along, right? And again, people who would have bought 6 months ago should have said, "Ah, I should have waited 6 months." Well, yeah,
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
maybe, but
Maybe.
but at the end of the day, even if you bought 6 months ago, it was a
You
great time,
didn't. Well,
right?
that's what I'm saying. You didn't lose. And that's what I was gonna say. Like to me, that's why like you're right. The media, how the media gets paid is selling fear, sex, and violence. Like that's literally how they make their money, right? And and that will stoke the fears of your friends and the people that you listen to. And that's why I believe it's so important to really continue to look at what your journey is, what your situation is, nobody else's, because your situation is nowhere near what your friend's situation can't be. It can't be. Nobody has the exact same situation. We're snowflakes, right?
Yeah.
Nobody has the exact same situation. So you have to look at yourself. And if you have the opportunity to buy, right, whether you're renting or whether you own and you're looking to upsize or whether you're looking to downsize, whatever your situation is, this is the second best time in the history of this country to do so.
Yeah. Yeah.
For real.
Which actually,
Everybody says I should have bought a house back in 1980 when the crash happened. Well,
even when I bought my house 25 years ago, I wish I would have bought three of them, right? So,
right. Yeah.
but this is actually a good segue into what I wanted to talk about.
Let's get at her.
And I think a lot of people um, are not really wanting to buy because the reality of there is also a lot of consumer debt. If you take a look at
Mhm.
one thing that COVID brought us, if you were a homeowner, it spiked the value of your home. If you were, um, it- there was a lot of things that happened with COVID. A lot of us were subsidized through the government with the grants that they were giving out. They were handing out money like it was Boxing Day and
Like they
Black
were
Friday.
grandparents.
There was a lot of people that were spending a lot of money, right? And I think, and while I know what had happened in those COVID years is that we had a lot of spending, and what had happened is that there was a lot of debt consolidation, and warranted. There was job loss in that time. There was legitimate economic crisis going on at that time. And people started to live in their credit cards. People started to live in their lines of credit. People started to accumulate mass loads of debt. And that the reality of it is that coming back into the end or coming to the end of 2026, uh, 8 or 7 out of 10 mortgages, or 8 out of 10 mortgages are coming up for renewal. So that being said, this is, in my opinion, a great time for people to take a look at the equity of their home and
Mhm.
really do a debt restructure and take a look at what their consumer debt is. And a lot of times we use these words, consumer debt. Well, what is consumer debt? Those are your car loans. Those are your unsecured lines of credit. Those are your consolidation loans. Maybe you consolidated debt, but you did it not in a secure line of credit, but an unsecured line of credit. That could be student loans. That's any loan that base credit cards, right? That's
Yeah.
any kind of debt that's not secured to your house as a consumer debt.
Speaking of that consumer debt, are there still department store credit cards anymore with HBC falling by the wayside? Because what I was going to say is that if people have department store credit cards, get rid of them as fast as you bleeping can. Those are the worst things that you can carry. They what those dudes are legal loan sharks. They are literally charging you an obscene amount of interest. So if you have a department store credit card, if those still exist, oh my goodness, please get rid of that thing.
Well, it's not, yeah, I agree. Not only even department, like take a look at what your Visa is charging you for a cash
Yeah,
advance, right? Like
yeah. Oh
19,
yeah, don't do cash advances on your credit card. That is nuts.
yeah,
One of the
but
things that people don't understand, because I didn't, I learned this very early on in my life. So let's say you buy something for $100 on your credit card, okay? And then you take out a $20 cash advance, okay? And then you go, okay, I'm going to go pay back that $20 cash advance that I took right now. And you go put that $20 on your on back onto your credit card. That is not going to go towards your cash advance. That is going to go towards the what you
yeah,
paid or that $100 purchase you made, and they are going to continue to charge you that obscene amount of money that you took out on that cash advance. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned that people don't know.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's lots of things that people don't know about credit, right? It's one of
Yeah,
those things that we've talked about in the past. It's one of those things that they should be teaching in school. They
100%.
are actually now starting to get that light bulb turned on and starting to teach credit and finance in school. But where I'm going with this is that people's mortgages are coming up for renewal.
Yeah.
People who have owned a home in those COVID years has built equity. Even with the depreciation of homes, if you've owned a home prior to COVID, you're basically have well, not necessarily an abundance of equity, but you have equity within your home.
Yeah.
And this is where I always say to people, this is a great time when you take a look at what your consumer debt is. This is a great time to do a debt restructure. And basically, it may make perfect sense to replace all your current debt, put it into your mortgage. And at the end of the day, yes, your mortgage is higher, but your overall cost of borrowing will be lower. And in doing so, getting a much needed cash injection back into your family each and every month. So if any of you are out there that are struggling, we're just getting by, we're just paying our interest on our credit cards or our loans, but you own a home and your home doesn't even necessarily need to, your mortgage doesn't even necessarily need to renew, but maybe this is a great time to take a look at coming in and saying, hey, maybe this is a really smart strategy for me to consolidate my consumer debt into my mortgage and basically restructure it. And in doing so, again, putting a much needed cash injection back into your family.
100%, especially if you're not looking to sell anytime too soon.
Yeah. Well, and,
100%.
and again, like people will then say, well, then it's going to take me longer to pay off that debt, right? Because maybe you reset the amortization for 30 years. And that's a very valid answer. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you have to take a look on what's going to be important to you. Is it freeing up cash flow that's much needed in the family to put either towards your mortgage, right? Or towards a appreciating asset or reinvestment? Or are you going to continue to struggle each and every month? And also in doing so, you're not only struggling, you're probably incurring more debt as you go on, right? Because the
Mhm.
cost of living just seems to be getting harder and harder and harder. And again, I'm not saying that this is a solution for everybody, but it is a solution for some. And again, for me, and this is just me speaking personally, I much rather stretch out my debt, right? And have an injection of cash flow come back into my family, which is very well needed, and then take that cash flow and either re-inject it into an investment product that's going to get me a return on that investment,
Yep.
or take that surplus of cash and basically put it towards your mortgage. And then again, you're resetting your own amortization, you're controlling the amortization. But unfortunately, what happens, Allister, is that once we pay off credit cards and pay off our debt, again, a lot of people will just jump right back into it, right?
Into spending it. Yeah.
Into spending it. And they almost feel like, I have a relief now. And
Yeah.
now basically their mentality says, now I can charge it back up. And we see that all the time. So it's really important that if that's you, and everybody knows if you're that person or not, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I also I've shared before is that if I see money in my bank account, I'm going to spend it. So what I have to do is I have to, again, and we've talked about this before, I opened up another account and I moved any money that I have into an account that I can't see online and it's sight unseen. And because I don't see it, I don't spend it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So again, a lot of Canadians live paycheck to paycheck. A lot of Canadians basically want to keep up with the Joneses. A lot of Canadians will get into massive consumer debt and struggle, but then when there's that exit plan, and then all that debt gets restructured and you put it back onto a level playing field, their psyche just goes back to buying, 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 and buying. So I always tell people is that if you are that person, the reality of it is, Alistair, you only need two credit cards, right?
Yep.
The reality of it is those credit limits just need to be a maximum of $2,000 as far as what a lender looks at, right?
Right. The 222 rule.
222 rule. And again, if you do have an abundance of credit cards and you're like, hey, this is starting to make some sense to me, you always want to keep your credit cards that are the oldest, not the
Yeah.
ones that are the newest. And
Yeah.
maybe, guys, $2,000 might not be the limit that you need. Maybe it's 5,000, but who needs a $25,000 limit credit card?
That's crazy. Yes. No, that's crazy.
Who needs a $10,000 limit credit card unless you're, a self-employed incorporated business owner or a sole proprietor, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the limit of your credit card should be a limit that you're able to pay off
Yeah.
when you need to pay it off, right?
Yeah.
And not be in that interest only kind of payment, which
So it's
again,
funny, Geoff.
banks love it. Banks love
Yeah.
it because that's where they make their money.
So it's funny, Geoff, that you say like who needs a like keep with it two, who needs a $10,000 limit unless you're a sole proprietor. I will be honest in saying I have two credit cards. I have one that I used for work, and yes, that is at a $10,000 limit. My personal credit card, it's at two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my personal one's at
And,
two.
and the thing too is when you're self-employed, the big scare too is that again, let's talk about COVID days. Realtors, mortgage brokers, they were making a lot of money, right? There
Yep.
were a lot of mortgages happening, there was a lot of sales happening. They were spending money, they were getting into consumer debt, but then they also didn't put any of that money aside. They
Yep.
didn't pay their personal taxes. And now
Yep.
all of a sudden, when that market has now corrected to the second worst market in the Canadians' history, right?
Yep. That's right.
And basically all that low-hanging fruit now is getting out of the real estate market. It's too hard to be a realtor now. It's too hard to be a mortgage broker. Now all of a sudden you have all this consumer debt. You have an abundance of personal taxes owing to CRA. And again, folks, remember, CRA can take priority even over the bank and foreclose on your house if there are personal taxes owing. So
Mhm.
again, we are even working with people that have built the equity in and paying off CRA taxes because because they weren't paid when they were making good money.
Yeah.
And to be honest, they're not even being paid when they're not making that great money because they don't have the habit of paying it. I'm going to wait until
Exactly.
the end of the year, and then they need to find 20, $60,000, and they're like, well, where am I going to come up with,
Where am I getting that from? Yeah.
right? So again, is debt consolidation a strategy? 100%, right? Is it a last resort? For some, 100%. But at the end of the day, there are so many benefits to do it. A lot of times you're going to get an overall lower interest rate. All the time, your overall cost of borrowing is going to be less. You have simplified payments. You're getting a cash injection back into your family. Now, what you do with that cash injection, Alistair, is a you problem, right?
Yeah.
Not anybody else's problem because again, people might say, well, you know what? Now I need to go buy this. Well, you know what? Now I need to go buy that. Versus, well, you know what? Maybe I'm going to put this into an RRSP. Maybe I'm
Right.
going to put this into an investment of some sort. Maybe I'm just going to put it as a prepayment into a mortgage. So again, what are you doing with that surplus of cash when you get it,
Yeah.
right? So here's the drawbacks if you don't do it. And not saying that you need to do it, but here are the drawbacks if you don't do it. And let's talk about CRA. We worked with a client, they owed $160,000 to CRA. And again, they were at the
Ouch.
risk of being foreclosed because CRA takes precedent over the banks, they take precedence over the city, they take precedence over everybody. So they came to a point where we want our money, we want our 160,000. Fortunately, this client of ours had the equity to do it, but again, for him, it was a last resort. There was no option,
Yeah.
right? So again, there is a drawback, and again, you do not want to put yourself into a situation of foreclosure where you don't have the only option is to finance, right?
Hmm.
Maybe the only option is financing with a private lender, which isn't ideal. So again, for this gentleman, this was the last resort. Last resort. Another drawback, and we talked about it, there's an extended repayment timeline. So that car that you're paying 0% interest on, you have a $900 payment, you're going to pay it off in 5 years. Yes, we put that into the mortgage, we stretch the amortization, that $900 payment might become $250. Yes, you're correct. There's a longer repayment period on it. Yes, you're going to be paying more interest on it, but at the end of the day, we're injecting $700 back into your family's pocket as an
Right.
example, right?
Yeah.
So what is more important to you? And you know what? If you took that $700, put it towards your mortgage, guess how quickly you just paid off that car? 5 years. Just it
That's
went.
what I was gonna say. Yeah, exactly.
And what we're talking about again, there's that temptation to get back into consumer debt once it's done. And
Please don't.
that's a real thing.
Yeah, I know.
We see it all the time. So
Yeah.
so again, where I'm really going with this is that anybody that has equity in their home, anybody that has consumer debt, which is pretty much everybody,
Yeah.
right? This is a really good time to think to yourself, is this a good strategy for me to move forward? Or is it the last resort, the last kick of the can for me to kind of get myself back onto the feet and then basically be the be the master of your own kind of destiny. But at the end of the day, this is something that everybody should be looking at when their mortgage is coming up for renewal. And I quite often say, if you're paying more than 5% on your mortgage, this is also a time for you to take a look at it because with today's lower interest rates, it makes a lot of sense for some to break that mortgage, pay the penalty, consolidate the debt, and in doing so, still injecting that much needed cash back into their family's pocket.
Yeah, to me that's to me it's a no-brainer. But that's again just how my mind is wired, right? To know that yes, you may take a little bit longer to pay something off because you're increasing the length of amortization to your mortgage and so on and so forth, for sure. To me, when you're getting that $700 back, please don't spend it. Like seriously, don't just go and say, "Hey, now I can go buy new shoes or I can go buy this or I can go buy that." In all honesty, the smartest thing, yes, is if you can, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, well, now you can alleviate some of your family's concerns. So now yes, you can spend more, a little bit more than you need on your family, but you don't need to spend that whole $700. You can take a portion, half of it, and you can invest it or put it back to your mortgage so that things do get paid off in a timely fashion, and you do increase your family's wealth. Don't look at that money as extra spending money. That's the one part that I know happens. I've even had friends that have fallen into that where where they've redone their home, and then next thing you know, they're out buying this, that, or the other. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We were just talking about last month about how about how you're struggling to meet your needs, and now just because your credit card is paid off, you went and bought like an extra toy. What is going on here, right? But it's a no-brainer to me to do this, to refinance yourself, and then to take advantage of the extra money that you're getting to make your life easier and start building wealth for yourself in the future.
Some people are just wired that way, unfortunately. I know that's a little bit of an excuse. I remember this must have been 20 years ago. A really good friend of mine came to me and just said, "Oh, we're struggling. We're having a tough time paying our bills." They had three kids at the time, a young family. And my heart really went out to him. And I said, "You know what? I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna give you uh, I'm gonna give you some money to help you get help you pay your bills and help you get on your feet at least for this month." And again, gave him some money. And I'm working. This is when I was working in a store, and I'm working in the store, and I see the family come by and come and visit me with Toys R Us bags. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, you were just complaining to me on how much your family was struggling.
Yeah.
I just gave you some cash to help you pay your bills, to get, to lighten the load. And 1 hour later, you're coming to say hi, which is great, with Toys R Us bags in your hand. And it's a perfect example to people just are, for whatever reason, they just want to consume, right?
Yeah.
And they just don't have, I'm not going to say they don't have the ability, but they just don't have the mental know-how to say, okay, what is my priority here?
Yeah.
Is it my rent? Is it my hydro? Is it even a cell phone isn't a priority because that's probably something that people can actually get rid of. Wouldn't be ideal, but what are my priorities? And this family's priorities, and I'm not going to put it on the kids, but the mom and the dad was toys for their kids.
Yeah. So it goes back to what you said earlier about keeping up with the Joneses, and I kind of chuckled because I was going to pop in with something when you said that, because that's a lot of what people, that's the thought process of a lot of people is rich people have a lot of stuff. So if I want to look like I'm doing well, I got to have a lot of stuff. And I remember this one thing that was sent to me by a colleague of mine in my past life, right? And they had sent me this photo of what poor people do and the difference between poor people and rich people. So they were like, the poor guy is wearing Gucci and all of these high-end stuff and spend $200, like got Jordans on for 200, Gucci on a shirt on for 350, jeans for 500, whatever it is. And then they're showing the rich Walmart, $30 jeans, polo shirt, 15 bucks. And that is the truth, everybody. In all honesty, people with money, they really don't spend a lot of it. So if you want to quote unquote keep up with the Joneses, then buy jeans for 50 bucks, not for 500 or 400, right? Buy a polo shirt for $25, not a Gucci shirt for 300, right? Buy a pair of shoes for 50 bucks, not a pair of Jordans for 200, for 300, right? That is, in all honesty, that's what keeping up with the Joneses looks like. right? If you want to be wealthy, it's keeping up with that. And I'm not saying you have to live in poverty, like look, like I'm not saying you can't have nice things, that people that are rich don't have nice things. But what they are is smart about the nice things that they purchase. The majority of the nice things that they purchase, they make sure have an appreciative value in it, so that they know if they get rid of it, it's going to be worth a lot of money in a couple of years.
I want to leave it at this, and I'm going to butcher this a little bit, but I was listening to a podcast, and like I said, I'm going to paraphrase it. People will always ask rich people, how do you make money? Like what is your mindset? And this particular person kind of put it in three ways. Poor people are just worried about paying their bills and trying to make money, or how to become rich.
Yeah.
Middle class people figure out just, well, what's the next thing that I can buy? Rich people say, how am I going to make this $1 $10? How am I going to make this $10 $100? How am I going to make this $100 $1,000? And that is the difference. It is the mindset of what you do when you have that money, right?
Yeah.
How am I going to make it? How am I going to make it? If I just had more money, I'd be much more happy. The middle class, doing fine, but what's the next thing that I can buy?
Yeah.
And the wealthy, how am I going to make this money turn into more money? And it made a lot of sense. So
Yeah. Nah. Well said, my man. Well said. Well, with that, man, we're gonna end it on that note, because that was a beautiful note. Thank you all once again for taking the time to listen to us today. As always, I hope, and Geoff hopes, that this episode was packed with as much value for you guys as possible, because we've been saying it since the beginning of January, that with the environment that we are in this year, we are doubling down on the value that we can bring to you, so that we can make sure that we are giving you the best advice possible, that so that if you're not working with us and you're working with somebody else, that you still have that other nugget of information that maybe the person that you're working with didn't have.
yeah.
So continue to love, like us, share us, tell everybody you know about us. Have an amazing weekend. Get out there, have some fun. It's supposed to maybe rain on Sunday, so Friday, Saturday, get out there, enjoy your weekend. Be back with us next week. But most importantly, as always, stay empowered, stay informed, and Geoff,
Stay tuned.
that's right, baby. Stay tuned. Peace out.